Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is January 20th, 2017, and this is the debut edition of This Week in Bitcoin. And we have some very special guests coming from all around the world. They're going to talk about themselves in a few seconds. We got Ty Zen, you know who he is. We've got PJ Brunette. Is that how you say your name? Brunette?
Brunette or Brunet, either way.
Brunet. We've got Luke of the Yes for Motivation channel. And then, of course, we've got Tawanda Kembo, the legendary Roger Ver of Zimbabwe, the guy behind the Bitcoin exchange over there. So starting with the legend of Tawanda Kembo, tell us a little bit about yourself, Tawanda. What's going on in Zimbabwe?
Well, thank you, Adam. First of all, I actually consider myself to be the Adam Meister of Zimbabwe. So I'm Tawanda Kembo. My background is I'm a software engineer. So I built my first software program when I was 13 years old. And then I felt as if I wasted 12 years of my life. When I got introduced to Bitcoin in 2012 when I was 25, I got the exact same feeling. I felt like I wasted 24 years of my life. And I'm working in the Bitcoin space full time, running a Bitcoin exchange in Zimbabwe. It's on BitcoinFundi.com. And like now is the most exciting time to be running a Bitcoin exchange when you look all over the world, when you look at the currency wars, the capital controls, like all these fiat currencies are in crisis all over the place. And it's a really good time to introduce people to Bitcoin.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Ty Zen, the legend.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Who he is. Say hello, Ty. Tell everyone who you are. Everyone knows who you are, but just in case.
Yeah, this is Ty Zen from the cryptocurrency market channel. We're from www.cryptocurrency.market, and we have the most popular cryptocurrency investing channel on the internet. So glad to be here, Adam. Thanks for inviting me here today.
Sure. All right, PJ Brunet. You may have not heard of him before, but he's an awesome presence out there that I know about. Tell us about yourself. What's going on?
I'm in Texas, and I'm a software developer. And I wrote an Ethereum blog post like several months ago, and it just started getting some traction in Google. So I figured I should make a video, and then I found Adam. So I've been kind of growing from there with search engine optimization. And I've been interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for a while now.
Now you've got some very interesting videos out there and a very interesting page. What's the link to that?
pjbrunet.com is my blog, or you can just find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to connect with me.
Okay. Now, Luke, you guys, many people know him for his channel and his presence on everybody else's channel too. Yes for Motivation. So, Luke, tell us about yourself and where you are and everything.
Yeah, my name's Luke. I live in England, and I basically started Yes for Motivation about like 2 years ago now. And I originally studied multimedia computing, so like multimedia, web design, graphic design, a bit of computing, and that was in 2012. Graduated. I do a bit of digital marketing as well. That's what led me to YouTube, and I basically do videos about sort of self-improvement, science and technology, political stuff. So a bit of a mixture of everything, really. And some of you guys have probably seen my videos, like my Bitcoin videos and stuff, and that's how I saw Adam's channel, and I started sort of watching the BitcoinMeister show, and here I am. Yeah,
that's awesome. So I am going to link to everyone's important information below once this is all done, so you'll be able to check them out and everything. Now, starting with Luke, this has been an interesting week in Bitcoin. I mean, nothing too controversial, you know, the usual China stuff. There was the Miami Bitcoin conference. Does anything stick out in your mind? Is there anything you want to speak about, Luke, that this week in Bitcoin? What was really big for you?
Yeah, like it's been, well, every week in Bitcoin seems to be a eventful week. A lot of people a lot of the media seems to always hype up Bitcoin when something isn't going as right as people would like it to be. When Bitcoin was surging up over the last few weeks, there was no real coverage of it, from like the mainstream media or any of the sort of technology media outlets. And then everyone started piling onto Bitcoin when it dipped down to around 900. And these sort of things, because a lot of people aren't educated enough yet with Bitcoin and how it all works, when there's a bit of when there's some type of news from China that we don't even know if it's real or not, because there's so much news, it's hard to keep up with. People seem to panic sell so much, and what we get is sort of a lack of understanding, because the whole market, when it comes to Bitcoin, when it comes to money in general, the whole market is based on greed and fear, and the mainstream media always plays on that, and I think it's played on it a lot in the fear side of things over the last week. What's happened with China, with the Chinese bank government basically capping the margin trading. I think margin trading is, like, for me personally, it's a really good way to lose money. For me, I know a lot of people will lose a lot of money on it if they don't know what they're doing, and if they don't know how to do it and how to apply it, and if they don't understand the markets and understand how the other altcoins work as well. So it's brought a little bit of stability and stuff, but I think to look at last week, I think to look at how last week's gone, I think a lot of it has been down to a lot of fear. A lot of fear has come in, and then like when Bitcoin went down to, like, was it $800 or around that, the greed then kicks in, and then people start buying up the Bitcoin that's much cheaper. So for people who are new to this is why, like, what we're doing right now is really good, because we're helping people understand what's going on, and we're creating content. People are going to come to us as a guide stone. We have to kind of help people understand that greed and fear are the main things that are kind of swaying all this turbulence with Bitcoin. And then when there's a big dip with Bitcoin, the fear kicks in, and then the greed kicks in, because when people want to get the cheap Bitcoin and make profit. So it's been every week in Bitcoin, there's always something going on. But yeah, I think this week, I think with the margin trading as a whole, it's brought a bit of stability. And but I read just this morning on I wrote it down, hang on Cointelegraph, saying about the Chinese bank were investigating a load of exchanges in China, and it apparently revealed there was some illegal activities going on behind the scenes. So I mean, I'm not saying all exchanges are like that, because they're not. You know, you get good and bad of everything, but we have to understand that this as well isn't going to help with people's confidence in Bitcoin. It's going to create the whole fear side of things. So people, there was a little bit of a dip, but then it's
right.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's interesting.
The FUD. We got to be anti. We got to be anti-FUD here. That's a very important thing. Takeaway from this week in Bitcoin. Now,
and education will combat that, and sound. I always say in my videos, always do your research. Always do your logical research. So.
All right. So, PJ, what was your big takeaway from this week?
Can I just comment on the last thing that was said?
Oh yeah, please.
Just in terms of fear selling, panic selling, I think. Does anyone really know how much of the market is trading, and it's speculation? I don't really know if anyone can really measure that without. I mean, maybe there's some people that know if they have all the addresses of all the exchanges, and somehow they can get in there and do data mining. But I agree with you that it seems that most people are looking for short-term gains, and maybe there's, I guess they call it momentum trading, where you where you just, if you see the price uptick a little bit, maybe you have a high frequency trading algorithm that'll just jump in there and buy the spike and then just sell as soon as the price starts to go down. So I think some of that's algorithms that's making the fear kind of magnifying, like when the price goes down, those high frequency algorithms probably kick in and the price drops. But I think we're seeing strength with this last downturn, because when it was like over 1,000, and then I bet you there was a lot of people that were thinking that it was going to crash after that, but the price was pretty stable.
You bring up a very good point about if it's just a bunch of algorithms. You know, they cut down on the margin trading, so that has made a difference in China. I think what it all boils down to, and we've discussed this before, is that people do blow out of proportion what's going on in China, and kind of trying to overanalyze the numbers a little too much. You know, the price is what the price is going to be here. I don't think we don't even have real demand yet for Bitcoin as it will be one day when people really, really need Bitcoin, and that will influence the price. I think right now, yeah, it's a lot of speculation, and that's what's going on. Now speaking of speculation,
how do you know that?
I don't. I mean, that's what we don't know that, and that's why I'm going to ask Tai Zen. Tai Zen, come in now. Let's. What's your news? But also address some of that there.
No, I think some of the biggest things that's happening in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency community is the Chinese cracking down on the margin trading, the high margins on their trading. What happens is, just so that your audience understands, in case they're new to cryptocurrency trading, margin is basically how much. For example, let's say if you were to buy a house in America, a $100,000 house, typically you put 20% down payment on the house before you're able to control the house. And there's some circumstances where you can put 10% or 5% down on that property and take control of it. Margin is similar to the down payment that you put on a house before you buy it. If you want to control $100,000 worth of Bitcoin products or Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, there's usually a margin. If you want to trade on margin, what it means is that you're putting a down payment on it to control that $100,000 worth of Bitcoins. And what the Chinese were doing was that they were only requiring like a 20-to-1, a 10-to-1, or a 50-to-1 margin. And a 50-to-1 means that you only have to put up 2% of the value of those Bitcoins. So if you were attempting to buy or sell $100,000 worth of Bitcoins, a 50-to-1 margin means that you only have to put down $1 and control $50. So yeah. If you're buying or selling $100,000 worth of Bitcoins, you only have to put up $2,000 out of your own pocket to control that $100,000. The reason why a lot of Chinese are doing that is because they can put up $2,000 to control that $100,000 worth of Bitcoins, and if it moves up $10, $100 in value, that's a significant profit on it, on the $2,000 that they put up. So just if you don't know what the current standard laws are for margin requirements in the United States and most of the European countries, it may not mean anything to you, but in the US, in order for you to control $100,000 worth of stocks or stocks, you have to put up, it's 4-to-1, you have to put up $25,000 if you want to control $100,000 worth of stock during the day. And at night, you have to put up $50,000 to control $100,000 worth of stock at night. And in the currency market, you have to put up, they won't allow you to do more than 50-to-1, which means that in order for you to put up, to control $100,000 worth of currencies, like foreign exchange currencies, you have to put up $2,000 out of your own pocket. And what the Chinese exchanges are doing is that they are setting margin rates that they're abnormal, meaning that it's not what your typical for the level of liquidity of how much volume is being traded. It's much higher than normal. Like it should not, in my opinion, it should not be more than the 2-to-1 or the 4-to-1, like in the stock market in the US. There's a reason why the United States has it at 4-to-1 and 2-to-1 is to protect the consumers and the individual investors. And then for the Chinese to do that, I think somebody needs to mute that microphone. So what happens is the fact that the Chinese central bank is telling the Chinese exchanges to do away with the high levels of margin means that it's going to reduce the volatility in the Bitcoin trading. And to me, that's just good. That's good for the Bitcoin community. There are some traders out there that know how to trade and they like the higher margin. Me personally, when I traded, I prefer the higher margin, but that's because I know how to trade. But for the people that do not know how to trade professionally, that's extremely dangerous. And if I had to make a choice, I would prefer the lower margin rates to protect the new traders that are coming into the markets. And so that's my thoughts on it.
All right. Thank you, Tai Zen, for that, and what's going on with trading and current events. I want to pivot here to Tawanda Kembo in Zimbabwe. Tell us what is going on with Bitcoin in Zimbabwe. We've heard so much. There's obviously everything is news to us here in North America and most of the rest of the world when it comes to Bitcoin and Zimbabwe. They issued what happened when they issued the sort of new currency, the bond notes of Zimbabwe. Take it away, Tawanda. Unmute yourself too. I think you're muted.
Oh, thanks for that. I was actually on mute.
Okay, there you go.
I think you're in Zimbabwe just before they introduced the bond notes. I think they introduced them a day after you left or something. But so far seems to be an experiment which seems to, so far, like it does is the cash crisis. Like to those who are not in the know, Zimbabwe didn't have its own currency for about 5 years. Like when ours was hyperinflated, like in 2008 when it was.
Oh, wait a second. Tawanda, you got muted there. Sorry, something happened. Something, Tawanda. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. All right. Say what you were saying. Sorry.
Okay, unmuted. I was just explaining what it was like in 2008. I remember when I would walk in a bar to buy beer. If I had enough money to buy 6 beers, I would buy all of them at once and go and sit with them on my table, because every time you'd go to the counter after you finish a beer, the price would have changed. That's how bad hyperinflation was in 2008. And like it went so crazy that everyone abandoned the local currency, so we started using foreign currency. The US dollar became the most popular currency, and now we have 9 currencies which are legal tender. So the US dollar, African rand, Botswana pula, Japanese yen, like in a few other currencies which are legal tender in Zimbabwe. So it's not uncommon for you to buy things with US dollar and get your change in South African rand or Botswana pula or euro. It's something which is common and accepted. And then a few weeks ago, the government introduced a local currency called bond notes. Because there was such a huge crisis for cash. It was so crazy. Banks were giving out as little as $30 a day or $50 a day, and you couldn't withdraw more. That was the cash limit that was there. But what's even crazier is it's getting more difficult for you to send money outside the country. So not just because of capital controls, but because all the banks are in crisis. So the banks, if you understand how banking works, you know, to be able to do an international wire transfer, the bank needs to have funds inside what's called a Nostro account, which is an account with some foreign bank outside the country. So most of the banks are struggling to keep their Nostro accounts funded. So lots of companies can't move money outside the country. It's getting more difficult to do cross-border payments. And right now, Bitcoin is the only way. So demand for Bitcoin is very, very high. In fact, while the price of Bitcoin on Coinbase right now is like $900, in Zimbabwe it's over $1,050. and that kind of speaks volumes to what the demand is like here in Zimbabwe. What's also one other interesting way of looking at it is that while all over the world people are more concerned about the price, because in places like China or the US, we have a large number of people who buy to speculate on Bitcoin, or they want to buy and sell and make a profit, and they are trading. In Zimbabwe, a large number of the people are using Bitcoin as a utility to do cross-border payments. So when you move from just the US or China and start to move towards Zimbabwe, you tend to see that people care less about the price because they are buying Bitcoin to use just in time. So you're buying so that you can just make your payment, or you can just buy what you want to buy. And so the price and the volatility tends to be less of a concern. It's more important when you're a speculator or when you're buying Bitcoin to hold, and you're speculating on the price when you're trading. But when you are using Bitcoin more as a utility or as a way to make payments, price seems to be less important.
Oh, okay. This is now when we're talking about speculation here. This reminds me of some news from this week also that was out there. Kim.com. Everybody knows who Kim.com is, right? He was supposed to make a big Bitcoin announcement, and once we heard the announcement, everyone would start buying Bitcoin, or the price would go up. There was no big announcement. Luke, what do you think about this Kim.com situation?
Yeah, I've read a few of his tweets and heard about him a few times. Didn't like 5 years ago he get the US government tried to like raid his house or something like that. So I don't know. It seems like, remember what happened with was it WikiLeaks? And they were meant to make a big announcement as well. I mean, they have made loads and loads of announcements.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, we have to say that. But I remember there was meant to be some big announcement, and it was mostly it kind of deflated people's hopes a bit. I don't know much about this Kim.com guy. I know of him, but I don't know much about him too much. But maybe, I mean, I don't know if it's like a marketing technique, or if it's just, or maybe something from behind the scenes. Someone from behind the scenes kind of said to him, "Look, don't say no more." I don't really know. And will we ever know? We might do. I don't really know much more about it. Really, I think that.
All right. Well, that's a fair assessment. I mean, PJ, are you familiar with the situation with Kim.com? What happened this week? How he didn't say what he was going to do, and people are just left wondering what's going to happen here.
I'm not familiar with that particular story, but I have been following the mega upload progress.
Yeah, that's him.
And it started out as a file repository, and now he's investing more in encryption, so that he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Okay, so I'm not
a fan. I guess it's a cliche phrase, but I'm not like, I don't really have any hard feelings either way against him.
Okay. Well, in other news, there was the Miami Bitcoin conference this week. Now, I'm not a big fan of Bitcoin conferences in the United States, but a lot of people like to go to them to show off. And I mean, it's expensive. The common man in the United States is not going to want to pay $500 to go to some Bitcoin conference, fly down to Miami and hear people who speak. Some of them are just blockchain people. There's this big conflict between the people who use the term blockchain, the people who use the term Bitcoin. It seems like at these conferences you get a lot of blockchain people. Now, Tawanda, you have been to you have put on a conference in Zimbabwe where you actually got, and as I was there, I saw it for myself, you got people who wanted to learn about Bitcoin. So I guess my question to the panel is, and the first to Tawanda, of course, is talk about ways to get regular people involved in Bitcoin at conferences, and what's your take on this blockchain versus Bitcoin phenomena? So Tawanda, you're up first here.
Okay, so first of all, I'm from Africa, where we have real money problems. I've lived a bit in the US, and like when you get your debit card from a bank, you can basically use it to pay for stuff anyway. Like every shop accepts it. You don't actually time you pay. It's actually the merchant who gets charged. But Bitcoin, the currency, is doesn't have a very strong value proposition to the common person. Because they can do international transfers, they can get access to credit, they can make payments, and it's not expensive for them to make payments. When you move down to Africa, it's a different story altogether. So all of a sudden you now have real money problems. So you get charged a few dollars every time you swipe your card. You get charged a few dollars every time you withdraw money from the bank. And imagine you're trying to withdraw $500. Your bank is giving you a limit of $30 a day, and you get charged a few dollars every day you swipe. When you get to $1,000, so now you have real money problems. So you tend to see when you move towards from places like Africa, when you move towards places like the US, where Bitcoin, the currency, is kind of a luxury. You get to see more blockchain startups. But when you move towards Africa, so here in Zimbabwe, we see a lot of people in the blockchain space working on solving currency problems with the money. So of my take. So
okay.
Where I'm from, we have real money problems, and so Bitcoin is seen more as a currency. Less people are interested in blockchain or the non-currency aspects of the technology because that's just a luxury here.
All right, PJ, any thoughts on this blockchain versus Bitcoin thing, or any thoughts on conferences in the United States, if you've been to any, if you think they should be a little bit more affordable because they're not really getting real people to them? Just any thoughts on that?
I think if you say blockchain, I think just makes you sound ignorant, because it's the same thing really. Because the blockchain was created by Satoshi, right? So.
Okay.
I mean, Satoshi created the blockchain, so I mean, they're indistinguishable. You can't really have one without the other.
Okay.
With the exception,
Luke, I muted you there. Sorry about that, Luke.
It's cool. Yeah, I agree. I don't. There's no Bitcoin versus blockchain because they're one and the same. Without blockchain, we don't have Bitcoin. So there's no competition. But it's the same thing. So yeah, I mean, to get more people into it that perhaps ain't as tech savvy, well, what we're doing here is going to help. But I think just explaining it in layman's terms, simplifying it for people. Look at the banking system that everyone in the world uses, the Visa debit system network. Now, there's a lot of technical, there's a lot of IT technicians behind that, making it tick over every day. But no one really takes any notice of that. No one takes a notice of the amount of technology that's behind that, the amount of skill it takes to maintain that. No one cares, as long as their money comes out of the machines, right? As long as when they put their card in and type in their PIN, and they can buy their new T-shirt, new shopping, as long as they can do that, they don't care what goes on behind it. So we need to kind of bridge the gap between the tech savvy people and perhaps the people who aren't so tech savvy. That's the way we do it, and how we do that is just simply by talking about it and just making it simplistic, like how people can go to a bank and it's simplistic.
Yeah. Now you brought up actually the battle of blockchain versus Bitcoin, and it's not really a battle, but in the news lately there has been a battle, and I don't like to focus on battles, but it's just so prevalent. You cannot avoid it, and I don't know if Tawanda has noticed this because he's coming from a different perspective, but I know you have noticed this. Dash versus Monero. These are two cryptocurrencies that are anonymous cryptocurrencies. It seems like there are, and maybe it's just a few very vocal people that are on these chat sessions that are on the comment sections. What is your take on this? And Luke, first you, and then PJ. What do you think is going on here, and is it even worth even talking about the battle? Because I think both are great. So,
yeah. No, you're right. All blockchain-based, all these blockchain-based currencies are like awesome. The technology itself is awesome, but what we got to get is a lot of the news is just fake crap. Like, I don't even really watch the news. I don't bother listening to them. I do my own research. So that's my answer to the news. So don't listen to mainstream news or anything like that. Most of the time they're just trying to make a sale. Usually that's what it's all about. But in terms of like Monero and Dash, I think there shouldn't even be really a war between any of the different cryptocurrencies. I prefer cryptocurrencies, altcoins that aren't trying to tread on Bitcoin's feet, because we have to kind of get over the fact that Bitcoin at this moment in time, at this very second, is the big daddy, isn't it? So we have to accept that, and Dash supporters have got to accept that. We've all got to accept that. So without kind of treading on anyone's feet, I think we should just stop trying to compete and rather complement one another. They've all got all the legitimate altcoins, the legit ones. They all have their own unique. What's the word? They all have their own unique function and their own purpose.
Okay.
So they should all be in their own unique niche, but they should all be complementing one another. They shouldn't be some of them are more than a currency. Like Ethereum should be looked at as much more than a currency. But I got opinions on that as well. But so we should all be working together, really, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to see blockchain. It's all about the blockchain, and everybody wants to see that work. And we shouldn't be fighting. They should be fighting. I ain't got no beef with Monero. I got my opinions, but I love the technology. I love the technology.
All right. PJ, what's your take on this Monero Dash thing, or do you have any thoughts on altcoins in general?
I see it like distros of Linux. Bitcoin is open source, so people have their favorite distro and they're very loyal. And but I think because it's open source, a lot of the code base is similar. So I'm not as familiar with Monero, but I'm thinking a lot of the cryptocurrencies have common code with Bitcoin. So to a degree, I think the coins that work together in terms of the source code will have an advantage, because it's going to be hard to outcode the coins that have collaborations. Like, for instance, Bitcoin and Litecoin are now working together. And a lot of these other coins are pulling down code from Bitcoin. So I think that gives them an advantage if they're doing.
We're going to get to that Litecoin Bitcoin thing after Tawanda talks here. Tawanda, what is your altcoin take here, or do you have any thoughts on the Monero thing, or that's not even something you care about? But what's going on with altcoins in your head?
I see coins. I see these cryptocurrencies as I try to liken them to WhatsApp groups. Number of WhatsApp groups. I'm in a few groups for my family, a group for work, a group for friends. Some groups are more active than others. They tend to get more conversations. And it's those groups that we see more valuable, where we can, the ones that are more active, that have more chats and more people communicating and sharing jokes and everyone reading messages and stuff. And some groups eventually just die. And I kind of try to liken this to altcoins. So like, as long as you can build a community around your altcoin, it's going to be valuable. And so like any WhatsApp, but if people use and people start seeing less value and more value in another group, in another cryptocurrency, like they're going to leave it eventually and it's going to die. But as you can have an unlimited number of WhatsApp groups, you find valuable. It's kind of the same with cryptocurrencies as well. So it doesn't matter that some have similar features. So you can be in 5 groups for your family, and you kind of have different conversations in each group. And it's kind of like how I see these cryptocurrencies as well.
Okay, now we're going to move on to talk about what I just mentioned before, and that is Segwit, segregated witness, and its possible implementation on Litecoin, I think January 28th, which would happen much sooner than Bitcoin. So Litecoin might implement segregated witness and show to the world how great segregated witness is. Let's talk about this. I know PJ, you wanted to talk about segregated witness, and it is on everyone's mind. Should Bitcoin adopt it? Should Litecoin adopt it first? What will happen if Litecoin adopts it first? Will Bitcoin get the hint to adopt it? If they don't adopt it, will Litecoin surpass Bitcoin? I mean, I don't think it's going to surpass, but will Litecoin all of a sudden be the biggest thing since Swiss cheese? So PJ, take it away. I got to mute my thing here.
Okay, well, there's a complicated algorithm that calculates how many people need to adopt Litecoin. The new release is already out, so you can download it and install it. And but the thing is that you need to have something like 75% adoption before the new version with Segwit starts to kick in. And because the three main pools, basically we have to wait for the pools to adopt this because they have 99% of the mining power. So I guess it remains to be seen how long it'll take before the mining pools adopt the latest version of Litecoin. But I think, just hypothetically, if they decided not to adopt it, I think maybe the community might put more of a spotlight on these mining pools and say, hey guys, we need to move on. And I think what'll be interesting, there's so much baked into the segregated witness update. And I think that could, especially the cross-chain transactions. And I think especially a lot of the smaller altcoins that don't have access to exchanges, if they could implement Segwit, and then if that allows them to exchange with other cross-chain enabled coins, then these altcoins that don't have an exchange yet, they might not even need an exchange because they can just trade cross-chain with Litecoin or the other coins that have Segwit enabled. And I don't know the exact protocol, but very interesting stuff.
That is very interesting stuff. Luke, give us your take. I know you're Litecoin. You like some Litecoin, so tell us what you think is going on with that, and go ahead.
Yeah. No, I like Litecoin. I think Litecoin's probably the more legit, if not the most legit, or compared to all the other altcoins. Didn't Charlie Lee say that they're going to use Litecoin as a sort of test net for Segwit?
He did say so. He had a tweet.
Yeah,
that's something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
For people watching, just Google it and find it. And I thought, well, that it kind of makes sense if you think about it. I mean, if there is any bugs or any problems with Segwit that no one knows about yet, and that the pros don't know about yet, if it kind of happens, I know it sounds a bit mean, but if it happens on Litecoin, the damage isn't going to be as much as Bitcoin, because the difference in the market cap and the difference in price, there's a lot more money in Bitcoin than there is in Litecoin. So it makes sense. I think it will be an interesting year for Litecoin with this. I think the problem with people have with Segwit is that people are worried that particular software, the version of Bitcoin, is going to become centralized, and people don't want Bitcoin to be too centralized where it's in control of a certain amount of people. And I understand that, and I get it. I partially agree. I don't want Bitcoin to go centralized at all, but I understand that Bitcoin does need to scale up for the long term for what we all want this kind of technology to do, for it to be accepted globally, like how the banking system is totally global. Something's got to be done, and you know, at the moment it's at a stalemate, but something has to be done. So, I mean, you know,
yeah. Well, okay, so let's get the Segwit down in Zimbabwe. Tawanda, what are you feeling with segregated witness? Do you know anything? Do you have any comments on this?
Well, I kind of hope either Segwit kicks in or the block size is increased, because the current transaction fees are very high. So I think I paid something like 60-70 cents to send 1 Bitcoin earlier today, which is higher than it was when I got into Bitcoin. So I'm hoping either Segwit kicks in or we manage to reach an agreement to increase the block size. Either way it will work for me, and that's my opinion.
Well, I think it's very interesting that you say this, because of all the people here, I think transaction fees will turn off high transaction fees will definitely turn off many more people in Zimbabwe than they would in North America per se. There's a difference. People aren't going to think it's too cool if they have to pay $1 for a transaction there. Well, because that sounds, I mean, it's probably cheaper than some options, but you know, 6 cents is a lot better, makes a really big difference there than, you know, paying 6 cents instead of $1. It'll be a very good thing. I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah. Plus, if you remember, when we got into Bitcoin, we'd pay something like 4 cents for a transaction, and it's one of the things which excited us about Bitcoin the first time. Transactions would be like 2 cents or 4 cents. And now we're paying 60 cents or 70 cents per transaction, and it's crazy.
Okay, well, that's actually. Oh wait, what happened? Did you? Wait, Tawanda. Okay, I didn't know if I thought somebody got muted or something like that. Okay, so we've been at it here for about an hour now. I think we can wrap things up. Does everyone? I'll give you a chance. Starting with Luke, then PJ, and Tawanda, just to give some closing remarks. And if you see anything in the troll box, any questions that you want to answer, go ahead. Now's your chance. Let's try to make it 2 minutes each or whatever. Luke, you're up.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, my conclusion is don't believe the hype. Always do your research. Don't fall for these scams that are everywhere. They're like cockroaches on the internet. It's ruining the internet. It's ruining Bitcoin and blockchain. It's giving it all a bad name. To exchanges, like you did a video on it yesterday, Adam, and it's like not. I mean, don't store it on there as a long-term thing. Try and look at the bigger picture with this technology. I think that it's still early days, and I think there's still a lot of potential with it as well. I think a really good thing for people to learn, for people who want to learn more about Bitcoin, how it actually does work. Try and understand what the blockchain does, like what it can actually achieve and what it can do, because it can do so much more than be a currency. And yeah, just check it out and look at the long-term potential of this. So many people around the world are researching and looking into blockchain tech right now.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
long-term thinking here, people. That's what we got to remember.
Especially for us younger lot, it's all about the long term.
All right, PJ, how about you? What are your conclusionary things? Anything you want to answer in the troll box there that the people have been posting or anything?
I just wanted to do 2 book recommendations, and they're not even, speaking of the big picture and long-term thinking, one book that influenced me is called Market Wizards, and it's, I would look for the first edition. That's the one that I read like in the 90s. And I think that's a great book. And it talks about just trading any market. And it interviews these really advanced expert traders. And a lot of those people in those interviews recommended the book Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. I recommend that book too. It's a fictional account, but it really it emphasizes the importance of the speed with which the data travels. So those are my 2 book recommendations, and so I don't have anything to say about cryptocurrencies specifically.
Okay, no, that's cool. Tawanda, what do you got? You're going to wrap up. You're going to be the last one here.
Well, just to wrap up, in addition to like those are good suggestions, PJ, but I also add that investing in education will pay many times over than investing in Bitcoin. So I would recommend people invest in equipping themselves with skills and learning about this technology.
Well, that is a very good conclusion. Tai Zen had to drop out early. He's legendary. I thank all my guests. I will link to their important links below. I hope everybody enjoyed our first show. We had a little bit of technical difficulties here and there, but we'll make it better next Friday. Hopefully we'll be back next Friday or next Saturday or Sunday, one of those days. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, this Rupp Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. That was This Week in Bitcoin. Bye, everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.